mandato a moving step, invece dovevo mandare a volevo mandare ai ragazzi. Vabbè.
Infatti la sera d'aiuto non sono pronta. Ah no, perché rispondeva al tuo commento sopra.
Esatto.
Siamo
Ok.
a 20 minuti. Oh, tutti italiani, ok, viene registrato, così un po' di relax. No, bisogna switchare in inglese.
La facciamo in italiano.
No, non viene registrato. Dite pure a Serena che anche se l'inglese non è perfetto siamo tutti italiani. Sarà stressatissima, da morire. Tipo, sai come fammi le putiane. Vai a nuovo.
E poi presenta la Marti anche.
Ma lei
Sì, però si collega anche da
Collega.
In teoria mi ha detto di sì perché lei a mattina alle 4 che c'è una...
Sì, con Gerardo.
Dovrebbe riuscire, insomma.
No, sto in piedi, perché mi sposto più. 1 minute and we will start. Ok. Allora, prima presenta Laura, poi come dal programma, poi Serena, poi chi presenta Giovanni e poi l'altro?
L'ultimo?
Galali. Non sei tu, no? Un gruppo di...
Forse sono virtual.
c'è Serena? C'è, online. Sì, collega. Voleva andare adesso?
Sì, perché adesso sono tutti online, no? Che possiamo presentare.
Sì.
Ok.
Non so se vuoi stare qua.
Ok?
Sì, cioè.
Un minuto. Io introduco. Okay, welcome to everyone. We can start with this session. And the session is about smart city and health cities. And the first speaker of today will be Laura Ferretto, that will present the paper co-written with Martina Carla and Benedetto Barabino, entitled Key Quality Criteria in an Integrated Multiple Transport System Scenario, a Systematic Literature Review. So, Laura, the floor is yours.
So thank you and good afternoon. So what I'm going to present is are the first results of the research, also on behalf of architect Martina Carla and Benedetto Barabino, on our research on quality criteria in integrated multiple transport system scenario. In this presentation, I will follow the same structure of our paper, so is divided into introduction, methodology, results, further knowledge, discussions, and future research, and conclusion. Starting from the introduction, the research focuses on the urban environment, being the one most subject to urbanization growth, population and services density, high transport demand, and externalities that the transport sector causes at the expense of community. The second focus is on sustainable mobility, in particular on local public transport, non-motorized mobility, which includes pedestrian and cycle mobility and micromobility. And based on these 2 points, the research focuses on the quality assessment of a sustainable urban transport system, including the infrastructural and services aspects from a perspective of travelers and transport users, considering a scenario of transport system integration and multimodality. The goals of our research is, first of all, to provide a general overview of this topic and the first list of key quality criteria and parameters, And secondly, to provide a practical tool and a methodology for assessing an integrated urban transport system with the aim of monitoring and improve both the multimodal transport offer and on the other side the quality of the urban environment, given the high relation that intergroup between transport planning and urban planning. So we started to reach these goals from a systematic literature review, and we choose to follow the business statement.
I'm sorry if I interrupt you, but in Atom, see only the first slide. Yeah.
Ok, maybe the internet.
Ora modalità di condivisione forse, finestra con schermo.
I'm sorry, I realized now. Okay. Now yes.
It works?
Cosa vede adesso?
Adesso lui l'ha tolta.
No window, ma entire screen.
Okay.
Cosa si vede?
Okay, the methodology. Okay, perfect.
Try to
go back. Try to go back. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay. But biome is there is also this part. I don't know.
Because, sì, perché l'entire screen. When I share the entire screen, they also see the relatore view.
Ah,
I don't know why.
Non si può togliere dal programma, dal PowerPoint.
Si può togliere?
Sì. In presentazione, meno presentazione.
Oh, finally, doesn't matter. For me, it's the
Okay,
same. Okay,
is that the
No.
for the
maybe it's better.
C'è una spunta da togliere.
We are sorry, there are a technical problem. Oh, non si vede? No, non si vede. Condividi la...
No, non vedo la...
Togli la modalità schermo interno.
Forse scrivo.
No, scrivo one. Ok, perfetto. Now. Yes.
Ok, però allora, aspetta. Devo togliere la... Come c'è la
O più, forse anche.
Sta sui vertigini.
Vedi, reduce presentation, use, prova di togliere la spunta di questa, prova a togliere.
Sì, così adesso.
Ok.
Sì, tu
Sì.
vedi questo e a casa vedono
questo.
Sì, giusto. Ah, giusto.
No, non importa, va bene
Va
così.
bene, dai.
Va bene, dai. Scusami.
No. So for our literature review, for the PRISM statement, PRISM is the acronym for preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis, and is a method for conducting systematic reviews and collecting all the scientific elements that respond to predefined criteria and our research questions. It's divided into 4 phases. The first phase is the identification that returns a number of papers after a keyword search in one or more databases. The second phase is the screening that returns a number of papers after giving duplicates and after meta screen by title and abstract. The eligibility phase consists in a full text reading articles, and the last phase is the inclusion that consists in all the articles included into the qualitative or quantitative synthesis, which are the articles that are considered after the full reading useful to the research. So for the first phase, we choose three databases, which are Google Scholar, Web Science, and Scopus, where we search 84 keyword combinations that are given by the integration between the keywords that you can see in the schema in the second column with the keywords of the third column. The dimension of the flow in the schema represent the number of articles that derived from each database and each keyword combination. We obtain more than 5,000 papers, and as you can see, just in this preliminary phase, the public transport is the transport category with the most contributions. In the screening, we moved from more than 5,000 articles to 239 after removal of the duplicates and after making the screening by title and then by abstract. And these are 2,039 papers that we then classified in 4 macro categories just to simplify the following step of the research. So as you can see, in the electromobility, micromobility category, we have only 2 papers. In multimodal transport category, 16, so are the papers that focus on more than one transport mode. Then we have the non-motorized mobility with 64 contributions divided into pedestrian, cycling mobility, or bike-sharing systems. And finally, we have the public transport category, which is the most consistent and especially as regards the public transport services. At this stage, we understood how the public transport service has been investigating a lot until now, and this is the reason for which we decided to exclude it also this set of paper focusing more on the less investigative aspect of public transport, such as the infrastructural aspect like bus stops. So we arrived at the eligibility phase with 19 papers that we read entirely, arriving the final phase of inclusion with 49 papers. And these are the papers that we use for the review and from which we extracted the quality criteria and parameters. Before moving to the parameters, we wanted to frame this topic also into the academic community. So we analyzed the type of publication that focus on this topic, and an interesting aspect is that the quality assessment is a topic of interest in a very heterogeneous field, so not only transportation or engineering, but also, as you can see, in the field of business and economics, computer sciences, psychology, urban studies. And on the right, we analyze the geographical distribution of Autos University. We can see how Europe is the continent most focused on this topic, followed by Asia and America. And regarding the countries, we can see how for each continent, Italy, China, and Brazil are the main country that has studied this topic until now. We compare also the geographical distribution of Autos University with the case studies of these 49 papers. We can see how the percentage changed a little bit, but the general distribution by continents is more or less the same, with Europe at the first place, where the focus is more oriented on multimodality and the integration between public transport and other transport modes, while Asia and America are more oriented on non-motorized mobility, like cycle mobility and bike sharing systems. moving on our criteria. In these 49 papers, we find a lot of parameters that most of the time were written differently but with the same meaning. So to simplify our sample of parameters, we decide to redefine them using the same terminology for the parameter with the same meaning. And to do this, we use a classification introduced by Europe in 2002 concerning public transport. So from this classification, we took 8 criteria of quality that are accessibility, availability, comfort, customer care, environmental impact, safety and security, and time. And we adapted their definition to make them suitable not only for public transport but also to the other transport modes that we consider, so non-motorized mobility and electric mobility. These criteria were structured then in different levels that we call parameters and subparameters, depending on the level of detail. Each of these parameters will be proper indicators, so with a measure of unit to measurable and monitorable, to be measurable and to assess the quality of the transport system. For this publication and this work, we analyze more in detail the first level, so the 8 criteria, and we are working on the parameter and subparameters definition. So we analyze how these parameters, these criteria are frequent in respect to our 4 categories of transport. And as you can see, availability is the criterion most common for all our categories, while accessibility, comfort, information and time are common for non-motorized mobility, public transport, multimodal transport, but not for electric mobility, which is most oriented into customer care. Environmental impact is a criterion mainly associated with multimodal and non-motorized mobility. Safety is a second indicator for non-motorized mobility, the third for local public transport and electric mobility, and the fourth for multimodal transport. So this literature review allowed us to understand how the quality assessment of transport services has been studied until now in a sectoral manner, especially as regards public transport, with attention on services more than infrastructural aspects. Another point that we want to underline is that the quality assessment of specific transport mode, like public transport, has not always included pedestrian mobility, which for us is intrinsic to all the other transport mode. For example, if you want to take to use the public transport, you probably have to make a part of the journey by walking to reach the bus stop, and this part of the walking and its quality can have an influence in the modal choice of user to use or not use the public transport. So this is a point that for this research is important. Another point is that even if most study focuses on a specific transport system, so in a sectoral way, we found a lot of criteria and parameters that include a multimodal dimension, and at the same time the relationship between transport systems and land use, like elements, qualitative element of an integrated experience and integrated travel experience of users. So to summarize the discussions, we can say that an integrated approach for assessing the quality of transport system in urban areas is missing, in particular an approach that considers an entire travel experience, so from an origin to a destination that could include more than one transport mode. an approach that considers the needs of different user groups, and finally, to consider the correspondence between the quality of the transport systems and of the urban space. So until now, this research has been more
I will do. Okay, now I'll do it.
I'm prepared.
has been more theoretical, but from now, for the next steps, it will be more operational and practical. In particular, we want to start from the list that we obtained from this review of 65 parameters. We want to move to a representative set of quality parameters to measure the quality of an integrated urban transport systems. And to do this, we are asking to academic experts to make a selection of our parameters by pointing out what's most relevant to the research through the survey that we are sharing online. And here you can find the QR code if you want to contribute to this part of the research. And the next step will be to use the set of parameters to assess different origin and destinations of a hypothetical trip of a case study, defining a qualitative tool using these parameters and a methodology for evaluating and assessing, monitoring the quality of an integrated urban transport system. And here you can find the main references that we use for this review. And I finished, so.
Thank you so much for your really interesting presentation. And I said the same things to Sarah, because she is shared PhD students with me and with Tanya Conju from the University of Sassari. And I think that the literature review is a main step that every PhD students must do, because is the way to understand the state of the art on the main topic. So, and also Sarah did use the Prisma method. So now we start the most vibrant part of your research. So I'm sorry if I'm speaking about that, but I think that this part is the main part of research, but of course is not the most vibrant, the most exciting part. I think so. I don't know if you are the same feeling, but
a little bit boring, but essential for
exactly. Boring is I can't because there is Sarah, but I can't. The less exciting, it's bad.
Yes.
So I really appreciate, because I noticed that there is a really in-depth study, and also Serena did this, the same. So finally we use the same methodology, and this is from my side. There is only this consideration.
There are no questions.
Yes.
Okay.
No, but I can read also later.
Okay. Now, I really appreciated this contribution. I also revised it, so I liked it a lot. It is well written and interesting. I have a question concerning phase one, so identification of the methodology. Because basically you identified criteria in the articles by typology of mobility of transport. But how about time framework? So you choose a specific time framework for the articles, or you searched for every year of every moment of the history of.
I didn't consider the time. Yes,
framework.
I just made a search, and yes, obviously what I found analyzing also the period of the article is that the transport, public transport has been analyzed from previous time than other modes. Obviously, the electric micromobility is more recent, so also it's clear seeing the number of publications for each categories.
Maybe it could be interesting to classify criteria not only by typology of mobility system, but also by time. Just to have an idea of how the quality criteria changed through time. I think it could be interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Just to make an in-depth analysis.
Okay, I can postpone my question to the coffee break. So not to start now because I know that we have 4 other presentations.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll go on with the next speaker. Do you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not so close. Do you listen to me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we can go on with the next speaker. The next speaker is Serena Filizino. That for with one second, because I need to go in the next. Okay, that she will speak about a literature review on street experiments, preliminary step toward adaptive planned solution from bottom-up experiments. Serena Filizino co-written this paper with me and Francesco Pina. So, Serena, the floor is yours.
Yes, but I don't. I can't share the.
Is in the bottom.
Oh, just sorry.
Serena, siamo tutti italiani qua,
Sì.
quindi tranquilla.
Tranquilla.
Dobbiamo fare italiano perché è registrato.
No, poi ho anche la bambina che è sveglia, quindi sentirete in sottofondo Elena.
Non ti preoccupare, mi sa che qua abbiamo tutti più o meno lo stesso problema, quindi almeno. Vai tranquilla.
Sì, allora, just a moment. Okay. Good
We
afternoon.
can see the presentation.
Okay. Le vedete?
Sì, vai Serena.
Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm going to present you a study entitled A Literature Review on Street Experiments, a preliminary steps toward adaptive climate solution from bottom-up experiments. This is part of ongoing research that analyzes the potential of street experiments defined by Bertolini as intentional temporary change of the street rules, regulation, and reform aimed at exploring systemic change in urban mobility, away from streets for traffic and towards streets for people. The research aim is to propose operative process able to change this temporary experimentation in adaptive climate solutions to transform and enhance the urban landscape sustainably by promote active mobility and enhance accessibility. The aim of the contribution he proposed is to analyze the existing body of literature on street experiments in order to create an innovative framework using a methodical and evaluative literature review. Research on tactical urbanism, street experiments, and parklets has shown significant growth and diversification in the last decade. Today include several disciplines ranging from social science to environmental science. However, cutting-edge framework for street experiments has not been developed. So we try to conduct the literature review in 5 steps in 5 steps: problem formulation, data collection, data evaluation, analysis and interpretation, and public presentation. The research on the relevant literature on street experiments contained into the Scopus database was selected about for 100 contribution in English language, divided into article, book, chapter, book, conference paper, and review. It was being investigated the chronological range from 2012 to 2024 as time span. The 2012 was chosen as the starting years of the survey because it was observed that before this date the contribution of the different topics are rated sporadic and not continuous. As shown in the figure, from chronological review, it is possible to note a significant increase of contribution in reference to the topics from 2018. Moreover, among the 3 topics, the contribution focused on street experiments are higher, especially in 2022. As for the reference for 2 parts, years are infrequent and of little number, while there has been a consistent increase since 2016, with a significant increase in 2022. The chosen themes are the focal point of investigation in several disciplines, in particular social science, environmental science, engineering, and arts of humanities. The distribution of the relevant literature selection is shown in the figure, and the social science is the most disciplines of these topics. Another finding that arises from the big quantitative assessment is the dissemination starting in 2020 of research that investigates street trials generated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The geographical situation under investigation are different. Europe, Canada, and the United States are the primary areas of investigation, with further exploration of other settings within Latin America, Asia, and Australia. The early analysis and interpretation have been carried out for the contribution related to street experiments. A part selected because they mention the street experiments in their title, text, other authors' keywords, on, as well as the contribution referred to part of compliance. And this phase is characterized by a thematic approach, allowed us to identify recurring themes, ongoing debates, and research gaps. In particular, from the context of the contribution, it is possible to identify 5 general themes. the phenomena of street experiments and its connection to urban mobility, legislation, conflict, criticism, involvement of stakeholders and communities, and assessment by citizens, street experiments prompted by COVID-19 pandemic, and in conclusion, ensuring safety. Um, for the first themes, we analyze the street experiments phenomenon and its relationship with the urban mobility. For more, Luca Bertolini has the highest number of citations. He defines street experiments and identifies the different types of interventions, considering their specific environments and characteristics. The aims was to determine whether street experiments can contribute to the improvement of urban mobility, and many studies focus on the dynamic development, programming, permission, procedure, and public acceptance of street experiments, particularly parklets. Frequent using real case studies as examples. A very widespread and debated issue in ongoing research is the possibility of processing the street experiments from temporary events to permanent changes. The second aspect is the street experiment as matter of policies. The transition capacity of street experiments often can be limited by institutional barriers. Thus, their success or their failure are connected to the specific policies and planning instruments of the examination context, as well as the deep conflict and criticism. Many researchers so offer a reflection about the regulation, the criticism, and the conflicts that arise between different street users. Some research reports the positive example of the Live and Street program in Ghent, where the municipalities have played a crucial role in the street experiments, improving their transitional capacity. Other research examine failed street experiments in order to address planning and governance policies in similar contexts. Another aspect is the stakeholders and communities participation and citizen evaluation. The studies put in evidence for success of street experiments is essential to actively engage the stakeholders and the communities, share the aims and the phases of the street experiments process with them, understand their needs. Exploring what the citizen value about the street experiments allows to propose a more effective and inclusive design. So the street experiments have been really numerous in worldwide cities during the COVID-19 pandemic. The researchers have explored with this pandemic and past street experiments in order to demonstrate that these offer an efficient solution to specific challenges to mobilities and public space. analyze and map the pandemic-induced street experiments in global scale, and understand if these measures can trigger a transformation in the transport system, and which measures have been most strengthened, what type of founding or found has been used, and the public persecution associated with the street experiment. Conclusion reflect on the need of change of public spaces, rethinking the urban green spaces as sensitive places for physical exercise on mental recreation. Soaring safety is the last the last things, and the street experiments, as well we know, determine a reduction of the number of vehicular through lines, and these spaces can be reallocated to other uses such as bicycle lane, parking, sidewalk, on the parklets. This circumstance enhance safety both pedestrian and vehicles. In this sense, the project addressed to evaluation safety of these spaces or to investigation the ensuring implementation of the exterior and interior urban spaces for essential safety and comfort of inhabitants, with the aims to share the results for the design for urban structure such as parks. In conclusion, for the last 2 decades, streetscape in many cities across the globe have been undergoing temporary experimentation, sometimes welcomed with great enthusiasm by the street users. This experimentation improves the safety of the street and the status and the quality of life. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to widespread street experimentation that have quickly gained global traction and achieved significant success. This has prompted consideration of the potential of this experimentation to become regularized and via systematic training. This aspect is essential for this research, and in order to achieve the research time, is essential to develop a cutting-edge framework for street experiments. The goal of the literature review is to establish the phenomenon of the street experiments in the current context, to frame its evolution, to highlight its strengths and weaknesses, and to understand its rules, its role in the city's transformation and the urban planning. Thank you for attention. Sorry for
Really good, Serena, really good. Any question?
No, I think it was enough. I appreciated your contribution, Serena.
Did you listen?
I have a curiosity, but I don't know if it's possible to answer to this.
One second, do you listen, Serena?
no, sorry.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Silvia said that it was really clear, and for her there is not necessary to give your question. And Barbara has just a curiosity, and
Okay. Just a curiosity concerning the topic of the possible relation or conflict of street experiments with the local regulations. I don't know if you developed this aspect and in which country this topic is more evident. I don't know if you
you understand?
So I answer.
Cioè dove la relazione con, diciamo, regolamenti locali
Ah, ok.
è più sentito in quale paese?
Ah, yes, yes. And in Europe and in the United States, where in the north of Europe, I think, because there are different cases studies that put in evidence who the stakeholders and communities sharing in this process do that have do the success of this street experience. I don't I not so clear. So
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Serena. Now we will go on to the next speaker. The next speaker is one second. Is Giovanni. Giovanni Tedeschi.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, Giovanni Tedeschi will speak about mitigation risk in pedestrian pathway of railway station district, a Parma case analysis, and we will speak about this paper co-written with Legia Marinelli, Federica Stabile, Silvia Rossetti, and Barbara Caselli. So, Giovanni, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Scusa,
vado così di impulso.
Are you viewing correctly the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me and my colleagues here. There is Leah and Federica with me now today, and letting us present this research, which has the title Mitigating Risk in Pedestrian Pathways of Railway Station Districts, a Parma case analysis. Here is the structure of this presentation. After a brief introduction, we will walk through the research goals, and then followed by dive into the analysis of the selected case study area. Then we will discuss the materials and the methodologies which are employed. This will be followed by the description of the research results, and then some discussion and some conclusive remarks. I would like first to introduce you some data on the impact of transport and private cars on greenhouse gas emission in the European Union. These are 2022 data that shows that the cars accounts for nearly 10% of the total of the greenhouse gas emissions. So this data underscores the relevance and urgency of the issues. We need a paradigm shift towards more sustainable modes of transport, such as active mobility and, in particular, walking. So we believe that walking is a key component of overall sustainability because of its environmental benefits, and also because it positively impacts individual health, providing both mental and physical well-being. This is perfectly aligned with the current objective, for example, of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in particular the goal 13, 11, and 3. To achieve this, we need a better integration between transport planning and urban planning. Oh, sorry. Yes, okay. Under the urban planning perspective, this paradigm shift implies the regeneration of public open spaces and pedestrian infrastructure to ensure safer, more appealing, and comfortable active mobility travel. To achieve this, we need the acquisition and assessment of data related to the urban environment, and in particular the pedestrian infrastructure, in order to define the current state and plan effective strategies and interventions. There are numerous studies and methodologies to assess walkability. But the problem is that there is still a lack of a universally adopted approach. Moreover, another problem is that if we study walkability with a more holistic approach, there are many more difficulties and challenges. Within this framework, our research group tried to develop a methodology to evaluate the pedestrian infrastructure. This methodology is based on criteria and key performance indicators. These KPIs are centered on the principle of accessibilities, safety and securities, inclusive design, and enjoyment and comfort. Here are the research goals of this research. First, we will present the results for the methodology of calculating two particular KPIs that are road safety and social securities. So these KPIs are assess the protection level of pedestrians in a urban environment by identifying potential risks and ensuring a secure experience for pedestrians. Second, we test the methodology to a relevant case study area, notably the station neighborhood, which has special and particular features and characteristics. Lastly, we would like to identify the model's strengths and weaknesses through the case study area assessment. Here is the methodology. First, of course, we conducted a literature review to identify the factors that affects the safety and security of walking. The second part is the definition of the road safety and social security KPIs with their selection and calculation methods of the attributes. Third, there is the selection of the relevant case study area in order to apply the methodology and to see how the methodology is carried out in this particular area. Then the data is acquired using a GIS data model and spatial analysis. And last, the KPIs are calculated and represented using thematic maps that you will see at the end of this presentation. Several studies and methodologies have been employed to analyze walkability. For the sake of this research, we can show you some results of the literature review, which implies the study of the road safety and social security that emerge as distinct but essential factors shaping individuals' inclination towards active modes of transportation. In terms of road safety, key factors are, for example, the vehicular speed limit, the infrastructure degree of protection, the presence of signage and markings, the crossing visibilities, the presence of traffic lights, and the crossing typology. For social securities, we focused on the crossing typology, the presence of lighting along the path, and the road vitality, and the presence of economic activities. So, two distinct KPIs are identified: the road safety and social security. The road safety KPI focuses on assessing conflicts with motor vehicles and the risk of road accidents. The social security, on the other hand, focuses on factors related to the sense of the security, the perception, and the exposure of the to potential petty crimes. Data is collected from official sources and by carrying remote and in-field inspections. Subsequently, the assessment process assigns a numerical value of each of these attributes. The highest value within each domain identifies the optimal condition, and so negative values implies some critical conditions. Then each KPI is then obtained by calculating the average of the relevant factors, and then these values are normalized between 0 and 1. It is important to underline that there is a difference between pedestrian path and pedestrian crossing. And this different, we believe that must be also seen and carried out in the evaluation criteria. There are two main considerations for this. Firstly, these crossings need distinct attributes to be characterized. So they required a separate analysis. And secondly, crossing emerge as a critical point from the road safety point of view, because they can be associated, for obvious reason, with a higher risk in the interaction among vehicles and vulnerable users. Road safety and social securities can be of particular relevance in the surrounding area of train station and other transit environments, as they can be identified as collector of urban mobility flows, and at the same time they are central and interconnected urban spaces, able to give integrated responses to new social needs linked to daily life and tourism. The train station neighborhood are places of conflict between the mobility infrastructure and the city. So, in this area, safety and security aspects of walkability prove to be relevant. But there is a challenge. How can we define the station neighborhood? There are several approaches can be found in the scientific literature, but the definition of station neighborhood still remains ambiguous and does not clearly establish the limits of this context. For the purpose of these studies, we choose a station neighborhood that is defined by using a 1 kilometer isochrone originating from the station and then distributed along the graph. Then we choose a case study that is the Parma railway station area. The reason why we choose Parma is because it's a medium-sized city that is easily accessible on foot due to its size and layout, and renewed for these historical landmarks. So this city attracts a significant influx of tourists every year. Additionally, the city is recognized as a university hub. That is a quite important University of Parma that attracts quite a considerable number of non-local students. Then it is also a capital of province, so it attracts during the school period a great influx of secondary students from all over the province. Parma railway station is a medium to large site facilities. It is located strategically at the border of on the periphery of the historical walls. So it touches the historical city centers. And then the station neighborhood is characterized by a predominantly residential urban fabric. In the 2022 analysis that is shown on the right image, you can see that have been a significant number of road accidents involving pedestrians in the area. Now we can see some results of our analysis. First, we can see that the road safety KPI calculated from the area that we have chosen, it is shown as calculated at natural interval scales and a graduated color ranging from red for critical segments to green, that is the favorable and optimal segments. The crossings are represented using points in order to be easily distinguished between the path. And then we can see that this road safety KPI calculation shows both critical and favorable condition in the area. You can see that the area located south of the railway line and east of the Parma River shows an overall good level of road safeties. Critical segments are focused mainly on the northern part. You can see here on the northeastern part of the area. The critical parts are predominantly located within residential areas along local roads. And the crossing situation clearly reflects the one depicted by pedestrian path. The most critical area is represented by the Via Trieste axis, which is this one on the right. Moving to the social security KPI, pedestrian paths are most critical in the predominantly residential areas, where the presence of commercial activities, notably services where people gather and remain open in the evening hours, are absent or extremely reduced. It is important to highlight that the presence of concentration of critical path and crossing in the proximity of the railway station. This is very important because it can strongly affect people's propensity to walk towards the station or from the station. So, because even a single portion of critical path can compromise the entire modal choice and lead to route variation that can discourage walking. This is very important when considering walking and crossings close to the infrastructure node, in this case, the railway station. To conclude this presentation, we can make some remarks about the research work. First, it is possible to observe how the KPI assessment are consistent with the in-field observation, and the significant disparities can be observed between the northern and the southern area of the railway station neighborhood. Secondly, we can note also that the road safety KPI highlights more critical issues, and it is validated by the comparison with the actual data, in this case, the data of road accidents. Future developments can include the refinement of the KPI's definition, which is an activity that is carrying on by recalibrating them, considering, for example, factor combination. So we can assign values not on attributes, single attributes alone, but on a combination of attributes that are linked. And second, by implementing additional factors, such as the presence of wayfinding signage or attributes related to users' perception of security, or the quality of the urban context. For example, the presence of abandoned building or the presence of litter on the road. And this methodology can also be applied to different spatial definition of the station neighborhood. And we can implement also additional KPIs to provide a more holistic assessment of walkability. We thank you for your attention, and now we are happy to take any question you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you listen to me also without microphone? No. Do you listen to me also? No. Now I have the microphone. Thank you so much for your really interesting presentation, Giovanni. And I have a curiosity. I don't know if there are other questions. I have just a curiosity. I understood that you didn't use the social aspect of KPI indicators. And a suggestion could be also thinking about the indicators of security by considering also the kids, because maybe some street could be more or less dangerous if there are kids, and maybe could be also change the difference of colors that are in the street. So it was just a curiosity.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yes.
I do see your point very much, Chiara. Actually, we have to think when we think about safety. Actually, what is good for children, for example, is very different from what is good for elderly people, and what is good for teenagers, because teenagers move very quickly, elderly move very slowly. It's not so easy, but we will find a way to incorporate also different.
But I'm thinking of kids but I'm thinking now when I put the question with the kids that are really with their hands, so just not left alone. So because I can say that the feeling of safety of the security can change. So it's just a curiosity. It's, because
Yes.
yeah.
This is a very important part, because I think that the perception of social security changes in your lifespan. So and also if you it depends also if you are responsible for other human beings that are vulnerable. So I believe that this could be challenging for also to model this kind of evaluation, but it could be very interesting because we can then differentiate the evaluation along the different perceptions of users. There are not only kids, but there is also the elderly, and there are the vulnerable, many kinds of vulnerable users, and we can also take into account the perception of the adults that are responsible for these people also, because these vulnerable users usually don't travel alone.
Yeah, I want only to underline that I understand that first of all we generally we must have the guidelines to follow a path. But I am just a little fixed about I don't know. I'm like a fixed point, the point of kids. So I can understand that could be a follow up. So okay, thank you so much, Giovanni.
Thank you very much.
You. Bravo. And now we can go on to the next speaker. Where is the next speaker? Soprattutto. Yeah, no, non c'è. Call number 1, call number 2, call number 3. 1 second, I'll try to. Is Mani Megalai Somasundasaram? No, there isn't. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can close this session and we will see you together to the coffee break and with the black coffee. Okay. One thing, please, switch on camera, please. Switch on the camera because we need to do a photo.
Of course.
Okay.
Fede, vieni.
Vai, Fede.
We need to call someone
outside.
yeah, because all of us want to be in the photo. Also the baby, wow. Also the baby. But we see only the head of the baby, of the baby. Vediamo solo la testa della bambina.
Ah, ok.
No, cavolo.
Okay.
All the presenters.
Okay.
Because also I spoke with your presentation. So
Yes, she was a speaker.
exactly. Okay. Also the eye. 1 second. Io non ce la faccio, scusa.
Mi si è bloccata la mascella.
È ancora mezz'oretta.
Can you get
Yeah.
closer? Okay, thanks.
Smile,
Maybe
please. Smile also. Bye.
Okay. 1, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Cheese. Okay. Another 4.
1 second.
Okay, again. 3, 2,
Or
1.
smile.
Smile. Heart, heart, heart. Can you give me the heart? Too shy. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful evening, day, and have also a wonderful coffee break. Bye bye.
Bye, thank you very much.
Bye.
Ciao a tutti, buon proseguimento.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ah, perfect. Uh, Teresa, also, can you hear me?
Hear you?
Uh, are you supposed to do the technical assistance for this session?
Because the camera is there, but it's not so clear.
Are you in the chair? Or
Yes.
Catalina?
Yes. So I'm it's there. It's there. Maybe if I move a little bit.
Okay, actually, we should have five presentations, but I just see you, Amado, so maybe it's better if we still wait some minutes more to see if someone else is coming, if it's okay for you. Arnaldo, sorry.
Okay. 1 minute. Can you see my presentation?
I think he didn't understand. I think he didn't understand to wait on.
Yeah, Arnaldo, we are just waiting a little bit because some other people are supposed to come and
Okay,
maybe we can wait some minutes more and then you can start, okay?
okay.
Just few minutes more. Thank you.
Do you know if there any type of no-show policy? Is there any type of no-show policy?
No, sure. Ah, if you don't
No,
show
not
up,
show.
I think if you don't present, they will not publish your paper. I'm pretty sure. Oh, sorry, doctor, it's very hard, sorry. Please.
Just Arnaldo is my student.
He's your student. Okay.
Oi, the microphone appears to be on. Okay, Armando, I think we can start. So, the presentation is entitled Enhancing Explainability in Oral Cancer Detection with Great CAM Visualizations. The stage is yours. I recommend you to please talk no more than 15 minutes, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, and thank you. Hello, my name is Arnaldo. I'm from Brazil, and I'm going to present about my work, Enhance Explainability in Oral Cancer Detection with Great CAM Visualizations. Okay, oral cancer is among the most common types of cancer and is often characterized by late diagnosis. This delay in diagnosis can be attributed to various factors, such as the lack of in-depth knowledge on the part of doctors. And when the diagnosis is delayed or incorrect, it can lead to death of the patient. Therefore, it's essential to develop strategies that make a diagnosis faster and more accurate. One such strategy is use of the computer-aided diagnosis systems, which are computational tools that assist doctors in decision-making. One way to build this system is by using computer vision and deep learning. For example, we can train models that can identify and classify different types of oral cancer. However, developing an effective model is a complex task, especially in the medical context where any failure can compromise the patient's diagnosis. In light of this work seeks to clarify the essential steps for building an oral cancer classification model. Before delving deeper into the details of the work, it's important to understand some recurrent concepts. In the figure, we have an illustration of what a convolutional neural network is. And the input is an image, and the convolutional layer applies filters to the image to extract important features, such as edges or textures. Fully reduce the dimensionality of the feature maps, retaining the most relevant information and reducing computational cost. Fully connected layers connect all the neurons from the previous layers, allowing the network to combine features and make final decisions. Despite the high accuracy rates presented by deep learning models in the state of the art, they still face a significant challenge in the terms of interpretability, since they often function as a black box. In other words, when propagating input through the network, it performs a series of processes and generates a final result. But understanding the internal operations of the model and identify which variables are most important is an impossible task for a human. In the following slides, I will discuss one of the approaches currently used to address this problem. Okay. But based on what we have accomplished in this work, we have built a new dataset with images of oral cancer with the assistance of medical professionals from various Brazilian institutions. The dataset consists of two classes: oral squamous cell carcinoma, or OSCC, a type of malignant cancer, and potentially malignant oral disorders, or OPMD. which, as the name suggests, have the potential to become malignant. This dataset is not yet public, but will be released soon. For classification, we conducted several experiments, and the two most promising models employed the convex architecture. The main difference between them was the training strategy. In Model A, we performed fine-tuning using a pre-trained network on the ImageNet dataset. And in Model B, fine-tuning was carried out on both the ImageNet dataset and ICCSA dataset, which includes medical images. When dividing the dataset into 90% for training and 10% for testing, we obtained the following results. About 78 accuracy for Model A and 79 for Model B. Superficially, we could choose the model with the highest accuracy for real-world applications. However, we acknowledge that in the medical context, this metric alone is not sufficient. Uh, we then decided to delve deeper into the analyzing the successes and failures of the model, creating a table that indicates accuracy by class and by institution where the images were collected. In doing so, we noticed that although the overall accuracies were very close and the fine-tuning strategy similar, the models learned to analyze different features to generate their predictions. Model A focused on the OpenMD class, whereas Model B focused on the OSCC class. Another important point to say that one model is totally better than another is necessary for all correct predictions of the worst model to be a subset of correct predictions of the better model. This can be verified by creating a Venn diagram of the predictions of both models. According to the diagram, there are examples where one model makes correct predictions that the other does not. Besides showing that choosing a better model is not straightforward. The results suggest once again that each model has learned different features. Another analysis we can conduct is to verify the confidence of each model's predictions when they are correct or incorrect in their classifications. Thus, if we not see that some incorrect classifications were made with low confidence, we could consider creating a new category for undefined predictions, which could potentially improve systems performance. However, we found that for both models, overall confidence values were very high. As mentioned earlier, there are techniques to deal with the lack of interpretability of models. One example is GradCam, a visualization technique for convolutional neural networks that helps understand which parts of the image are important for the model's prediction. And the more intense values in the heat map indicate the areas most relevant to the prediction. In the figure presented, we observed that the results of breakdown when both models made correct predictions. Overall, Model B generated more concentrated heat maps than Model A, more accurately highlighting the areas where cancer was present. Another thing we noticed is that when the models made predictions for the OpenMD class, they often focused on regions unrelated to the cancer region, such as teeth, suggesting that models may have misunderstood the potential malignant class as no cancer. Finally, we observed that overall, the heat maps from Model B were more focused on the lesion region compared to Model A. Medical professionals analyze all predictions on the test set alongside their corresponding route maps to identify intersections with cancerous regions. As observed, Model B generally showed a more precise focus on cancer-affected areas, around the 16 more focus. In addition to developing two highly accurate models on a completely new dataset comprising real-world images, our experiments led us to the conclusion that accuracy alone is not sufficient to determine the best model. Models with accuracy and training strategies can learn different image features. Following the pipeline established in this work, we shed light on the steps that can be used to choose the best model, focusing on aspects such as confidence verification and interpretability levels. And this is this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Arnaldo, for being in time. I'm sorry, but I'm completely in another field, but I find it interesting, your presentation. And are there any questions from the public?
It's my students.
Okay, there's your professor, so maybe he wants to add a comment, I don't know, but so I think we can go on. And now we have Nagme, Nagme Mohabpurlina, Shaushulu, Michael Nigal, and Nedu Jibo. And the
Yes,
paper is, yes, Nagme?
yes, yes. Can you hear me? Just a moment, please. I share my.
Yeah. Take your time, no problem.
Okay, do you have my screen?
Sorry?
Can you see my?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, perfect.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So again, now with another article uh, from the Department of Energy Technology, University of Warsaw, and also Department of Social Policy of Academy University, both in Finland. Now I'm here to present on behalf of my colleague to present our new article, the integration of decarbonization and resilience strategies in shaping sustainable cities. Okay. Introduction. Cities need to develop comprehensive climate action strategies that enhance their emergency response abilities to ensure the safety and security of residents during severe climate related incidents. Uh, During this study, we achieve a aim to this study explores the synergies between two concepts, decarbonization and resiliency strategies to aim to understand the collaborative impact of decarbonization and resilience on fostering sustainable urban environment. We have a main research question there. How can the integration of decarbonization and resilience strategy contribute to achieving sustainable cities? The methodology of this research in stages. In this research, an extensive review of scientific publication on resilience and decarbonization was conducted. With various sources such as the Scopus of Science and so on. The selected papers were also examined to uncover more studies and this study and this methodology in each stage builds upon the previous one to answer the research question. As in stage one, step one, review the definition of resiliency and decarbonization concept. We reviewed existing scholarly work to recognize these key concepts. In the stage two, exploration of the interplay between resiliency and decarbonization, we analyze how resilience strategies can contribute to decarbonization effort and conversely, how decarbonization can enhance urban resilience. And in the stage 3, synthesize and the framework based on the previous knowledge from the other stages, we integrated the findings to formulate a sustainable cities that can adopt to simultaneously advance its resilience and decarbonization goals. So, we start with the definition of concepts, sustainable cities. Uh, Sustainable cities and communities, are within the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations as Goal 11, aim to ensure inclusive, safe, resilient, sustainable urban and human settlements. Uh, Cities around the world should develop and urbanize more sustainability and focus on providing essential services, clean energy, and affordable housing to all residents. To achieve sustainable cities, there are some key actions, including removing Islam-like situation, providing inexpensive transit solution, decreasing urban sprawl, enhancing urban governance involvement, addressing urban resilience, tackling climate change issues, ensuring access to all to secure public places, and finally enhancing urban management to improve urban rules and regulation. These are items that we recognize we can use in the next slide. Second concept, resiliency and resilient cities. In the context of urban uh, sustainable cities, resilience and resilience encompass the ability of urban systems, including communities, institutions, and infrastructure, to stand, adapt, and positively involved in response to environment, social, and economic challenges. We have some criteria to achieve resiliency and resilient cities that you can see in the chart below. Uh, Robust and green infrastructure, social equity and community capacity, diverse and vibrant economy, communication and information, effective governance, urban form, and spatial planning and integrated development. These criteria of resilient cities typically we can answer to reach resilient cities. Decarbonization, carbon neutral cities. The definition of carbon neutral cities involves setting specific emission reduction goals, offsetting or sequestering the remaining emission, and integrating sustainability and resource wisdom targets in decision making. The process of decarbonizing cities involves a series of strategies and approaches aimed at significantly reducing or eliminating carbon emission within urban environment. I think you can see the chart. We have uh, some strategy for decarbonizing cities, such as green infrastructure and sustainable transportation system, comprehensive planning and integrated development, financial and economic tools, economies, and stakeholder engagement, energy efficiency, behavioral change, and renewable energy adaptation. In the stage 2, we synthesize these concepts. Start with synthesizing decarbonization and resiliency. The relationship between carbon neutral cities and resilience is deeply intertwined, emphasizing the crucial role of urban areas play in addressing climate change and enhancing sustainability. Uh, Resilient city focus on preparing for, responding to, and recovering from a range of climate-related and other shocks and stress to ensure that urban system can contribute to function and thrive in the face of challenges. On the other hand, carbon neutral cities aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions vehicles through a combination of energy efficiency measures, renewable energy sources, and offsetting emissions, thereby tackling the root causes of climate change. If we want to go through the concept of sustainable cities to achieve sustainable cities, again, we have the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, particularly Goal 11. And the quest for sustainable city represents a crucial intersection of environmental stewardship and urban development, drawing from the principles of both decarbonization and resiliency. By integrating decarbonization and resilient cities, city can create synergy that enhance their sustainability, livability, and ability to thrive in the face of future challenges. And we can address the complex challenges of the climate change, urbanization, and resource scarcity as well. And now for the stage 3, conceptual framework. This conceptual framework is crafted by integrating factors and measurements outlined in earlier section that presented, placing the goal of sustainable city at its heart. You can see four color here. The black one related to sustainable city and its elements. The green one related to decarbonization and carbon neutral cities and its criteria. And also a brown one for resiliency and resilient cities and its criteria. And we have another color, olive. This color related to the criteria that's common in resiliency and decarbonization strategy. So we go to the explanation of this illustration of sustainable cities and integrating resiliency and decarbonization. You can see sustainable cities in the center of this chart. And in the first layer, you can see 8 elements of sustainable cities that mentioned in slides. As the figure shows, all key elements of sustainable communities are interconnected and must work collectively. And these elements contribute to achievement of sustainable cities. And we have another element we added to the 8 items of the sustainable cities criteria. It's exactly related to energy aspects. And you can see urban form from resilient cities that leads to energy efficiency and renewable energy adaptation from the decarbonization. All these 9 items goes to the sustainable cities. If you see the left side of this chart, you can see communication and information, effective governance from the resiliency and behavioral change, community and stakeholder engagement from the decarbonization. All these 4 criteria prepare input for enhancing urban governance involvement and also enhancing urban management. Enhancing urban management has 2 other inputs. One from the diverse and vibrant economy, resiliency and financial and economic decarbonization. These 2 items create one element, and social security and community also prepare the input for enhancing urban management and also ensuring access to public places. Enhancing public places has input from the robust and green infrastructure, sustainable transportation system from both resiliency and decarbonization strategies. And these criteria also leads to providing inexpensive transit solution as well. And the element in the right side, spatial planning, comprehensive planning, and integrated development in OLIVE that shows that it comes from both resiliency and decarbonization, leads to removing Islam-like solution and decreasing urban sprawl. The last but not the least, we have two other elements from the sustainable cities addressing urban resiliency and tackle climate change issues. These two criteria shows that resiliency and decarbonization has a direct connection to sustainable cities, as you can see in the diagram. Therefore, this conceptual framework shows that resiliency and decarbonization strategy directly and indirectly can help us to achieve sustainable cities. As the final slide, um, achieving sustainable and resilient cities is a collective attempt that requires the engagement of all stakeholders. Uh, so it is through the shared vision and concrete efforts of the global community that the ambitious goals of the creating urban environment that are not only sustainable and resilient, but also flourishing can be achieved. For future study, we suggest that uh, delve into the case studies of cities that have successfully implemented these integrated strategy, providing value insight and the best practices, and also developing metrics and indicators to assess the effectiveness of these strategies in reducing carbon emission, enhancing resilience, and improving the overall quality of life for urban residents, which significantly contribute to the field. This would also in identifying gaps and challenges in current approaches in forming the development of more targeted and effective strategy. And in the picture, you can see citizens and how they should be engaged to each other to have a sustainable city and create a very good future for our next generation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Nagme, for your presentation. Are there any questions from people? Okay, I have one question. Maybe you already talked about it, but I would like to ask you how you will go on working on this research. I mean, what's your what are the next steps for this conceptual framework if you are able to apply to some case studies, or what's your idea?
For the next step of this research, as I mentioned, in the future research, of course, we should go through the case study and understand that how this strategy can work in a city, how can we integrate them in a real world, not just a conceptual framework, not just a theory. I think it's so important that we go through the society and check all these items. And I think some of the cities now use this strategy, but there is not any specific plan that shows that it's integrating. And I think it can help us to go and check some cities and help improve it and find a way that we can cover these items all around the world. The other cities can use it because when we check the sustainable goals of United Nations, we can see all the time when they talk about the resiliency, actually they talk about the climate change as well and these items, and it shows that these two items it's connected and intertwined together, and it can help our society.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know, we were supposed to have other people attending, but they are not showing up, so probably we can close this session now. So thank you, Nagme, and thank you, Arnaldo, for your presentations and for being with us today, even virtually.
Thank you so much for organizing this workshop and all your effort during this conference. Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you, thank you. Have a nice day.
product among the probabilities of non-collapse limit states of the concerning bridges and viaducts. Mathematically, this can be expressed with the equation circled in red, which simply express the product of a sequence of probabilities. This, I imagine, summarize the robustness values of bridges and viaducts together with the robustness values of the accessibility infrastructure segments of the State Highway 407 in each territorial context for a return period of 100 years on the left and 455 years on the right. To estimate the seismic robustness of housing systems, understood as the expected percentage of residents in usable buildings, a probabilistic seismic risk assessment was performed through the convolution of seismic hazard, vulnerability, and exposure models. The seismic hazard model was determined by integrating the Italian seismic hazard assessment framework with the stratigraphic amplification effects. These effects were evaluated by merging the Italian map of shear wave velocity developed by Mori et al. With the new generation of ground motion prediction equation proposed by Bindi et al. An event-based analysis with OpenQuake engine software was performed to assess the total hazard at exposure side model. Two sets of vulnerability curves are used as vulnerability model to take into account the uncertainties concerning the structural response of residential buildings. Both sets of vulnerability curves are valid for masonry and reinforced concrete buildings. More in detail, they categorize the Italian residential building stock in 14 building types defined in terms of vulnerability in 8 classes. Census data on population in buildings and the criteria provided by the National Risk Assessment are used to determine the exposure model. For each municipality, buildings and their occupants are grouped into 14 taxonomies according to the building types considered in the vulnerability model. Seismic losses are calculated for both sets of vulnerability curves by using the OpenQuake engine software. According to the calculated seismic losses, a recently implemented procedure was used to estimate the seismic robustness of each municipality. The seismic robustness values of housing systems for a return period of 100 and 500 years are summarized in this slide by averaging the housing robustness associated with the two sets of vulnerability curves. Depending on the calculated robustness values of housing systems, the maximum restoration time was assessed for each return period by using the formulation proposed in other recent studies. These three figures condense the average results for a return period of 100, 250, and 500 years, respectively. To establish a resilience prioritization among the 33 municipalities investigated, 16 quantitative criteria and 37 political scenarios or criteria weight vectors were considered. They were defined based on three main resilience aspects that can be summarized as seismic risk, emergency management and recovery, and integration and social cohesion. These resilience aspects group and analyze the technical, organizational, social, and economic dimension. The 33 municipalities were assessed according to the judgment criteria reported in this table, from which the connection between the main resilience aspects and the considered criteria can also be deduced. In particular, the quantitative values associated with the seismic risk criteria, namely the first 4 criteria, and the emergency management recovery criteria here, these three criteria, are all the values illustrated in the previous slides. Criterion 5 aims to evaluate the specific exposure condition in the compared municipalities. To this aim, census data on population and buildings were used. In Criterion 10, each municipality is analyzed by using geographic information system to identify its organizational relationships with the closest accessible infrastructure segment of the Stateway 407. Census data were also employed to analyze the municipalities with respect to the 6 criteria of integration and social cohesion, which take into account the socioeconomic condition as well as the social and material vulnerability of the involved communities. In this way, a decision matrix was built to capture the relationships between the 33 municipalities and the 16 criteria considered. One moment, please. It's slowly. Okay. Once the decision matrix has been defined, to take into account the possible uncertainties involved in the decision-making process, 37 political scenarios are defined based on the consistent comparison of 3 main resilience aspects. As poorly shown in these tables, the sum of the values of each row is equal to 1. In particular, the first 12 political scenarios emphasize the importance of the seismic risk criteria. The second 12 place more emphasis on the emergency management and recovery criteria. The third 12 give greater importance to the criteria of integration and social cohesion. And finally, this last scenario attributes the same importance of the different resilience aspects. So, once the decision matrix and the political scenarios were defined, the multi-criteria decision-making procedure implemented in a previous work was applied to calculate a relative resilience index, according to which a resilience prioritization among the analyzed municipalities can be established considering a wide range of judgment criteria and political scenarios. This image summarizes the calculated relative resilience indexes. More specifically, a maximization of the relative resilience indexes is sought to obtain a ranking of the municipalities from the least resilience to the most resilience in relative terms. As can be deduced, municipalities in inland mountain here, depicted in dark blue, are the least resilient, while municipalities along the coast, the east coast, depicted in light yellow, are the most resilient. In conclusion, the used procedure could become a main tool to define relative priorities and therefore allocate funds among region, territorial contexts, and municipalities for emergency planning and prevention purposes. It is able to analyze separately and then overlap the different resilience aspects with a multidisciplinary, transparent, and scientific approach. By using this procedure at different territorial scales, a new and rational seismic risk mitigation policy can be developed to build resilient communities. Currently, the used procedure can be further enriched by analyzing the different urban systems. In this sense, the work can be further improved in future studies. In the second study, seismic resilience study for a prioritization plan in high seismic hazard area, the community resilience of another sub-regional area of Basilicata is investigated. This area is the Egri Valley. It is located in the southwest of Basilicata region. The study analyzed the built environment according to the concepts of resilience previously illustrated. In this context, residential buildings are crucial and their role is widely studied in terms of earthquakes effects. In this second work, the earthquake damage suffered by residential buildings is investigated in relation to its socioeconomic importance. The resilience of residential building stock and socioeconomic aspects are considered to define earthquake risk mitigation strategies. Resilience is clearly quantified and integrated with other economic and social aspects to prioritize retrofit intervention in the study area. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And if anyone has any question, please ask. Okay, thank you again for your presentation and have a good day.
Thank you. You too.